So hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio and my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited that today I'm joined by Neighbours star Benn Hall, who of course plays Ned Willis. Thank you, Ben, for joining me.
No problem at all, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Now, I normally start off my interviews by asking about life at the moment because things are completely all over the place, all around the world. I mean, how have you been affected by, the coronavirus and life in lockdown? Because in Melbourne, it's still pretty strict for you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Last time we spoke, we were just saying it was a year ago, and a lot has changed in that year. At the moment, we're still in stage 4 lockdown, which for us means basically only 4 reasons to leave the house: caregiving, food and groceries, and exercise, and one other one, but obviously I don't leave. Oh, work. and then so it's tough. There's a curfew, 9 p.m. curfew. A lot of businesses have shut down or are sort of in hibernation, waiting to reopen again. But somehow, miraculously, Neighbours has kept filming. I think we've only had something like 9 days where we've been shut down during the whole year, which is pretty remarkable considering what's gone on in the world. And feel very lucky to be working there still. Yeah.
I mean, Neighbours was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure Neighbours was the first show in the whole world to go back to filming after everything that happened. So to be a part of a show that's kind of, leading the way must be quite a cool experience.
Yeah, Chris Oliver Taylor, who's from Fremantle, the production company, and he came in the other day and he said, so many other shows around the world were calling through to him and the producer Jason and asking for sort of how we did it, how are we doing it. And I must admit, it's like there's a little bit of trial and error. It's never been done before, and some stuff sort of works and some stuff doesn't at all. I know that the makeup girls have had a tough time because they were like, at one stage they were wearing full PPE, like in a hospital. So they were like masks, gowns, gloves, like it was an intense sort of procedure, but we felt really safe there, which is the nicest thing. We have, weekly COVID tests, temperature tests on the way in. There's hand sanitizer everywhere. We have separate units for different crew and cast, and it's a massive undertaking. And I really take my hat off to Fremantle and the whole production team for putting it in and doing it so quickly. It can't have been cheap and it can't have been easy is what I was thinking.
I mean, that's the other thing, is that there's obviously everything's having to change. You've got the luxury of the camera trickery, so you can make people look like they're closer than they actually are. I've noticed quite a few of the soaps who have now started going back. You've kind of got a few, i.e. I'm talking about Coronation Street here in the UK, where they're referencing the coronavirus quite a lot and adding it into storylines, whereas we've recently had the return of EastEnders here in the UK, and obviously you guys on Neighbours don't really mention the coronavirus too much, which I think is quite nice in a way, because people don't want to, you spent all day worrying about the damn thing. You want to kind of forget about it while you're watching, Neighbours or programs like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's what the producers thought as well. It's such a curveball, coronavirus. You're living a wild experience. You kind of want something familiar on your TV. You don't really need to be. There are little references, like there's like people using hand sanitizers in Harrods and things like that. But yeah, I think it's kind of nice not to have to deal with it. It would be not as fun to go to work and still be playing out storylines with coronavirus.
Now, the other thing that's obviously changed around the world is the way that people communicate. Have you found that it's changed your daily life in that, you're sort of maybe doing more of the Zoom calls, you're communicating with people that you otherwise maybe would lose contact with?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose one of the silver linings of the whole thing has been connecting with people overseas, particularly friends that are overseas and then just in other states as well, via Zoom, catching up for birthday things and having, getting birthday messages and also giving birthday messages via video. A whole bunch. So even with Neighbours, actually, Cameo sort of really took off, and a few of us, and Alan Fletcher's on there and stuff like that. And so you can sort of book you'll buy someone a present where we just answer questions or chat or all that sort of thing. I think most people know what Cameo is, but yeah, so that's been kind of nice too, to be able to connect with fans in that way, because I think the snail mail way is sort of slowly dying out.
And I mean, also, like you say, it gets you out there. You can keep yourself busy because there's so many people that, are finding it hard at the moment. They just need to kind of try and get back to normality as much as possible, but obviously a new kind of normal, really.
Yeah, exactly. As safe as possible. Yeah.
Now, I mean, would you say going forward, do you think this will change the way that in terms of work-wise, do you think that you'll continue, using things like Zoom and stuff, or do you think you'll be glad to get back to face-to-face contact and all that sort of thing?
I think I'll definitely be glad to get back to face-to-face contact with people, especially the way we are here in Melbourne. It is. It's going to be really lovely. Like, the small things have become really important. Like, I can't wait to go to the pub and have a beer with some friends, from a tap. That's going to be great. But I think, I definitely think it'll stay a part of our lives. I think this is, this has changed the course of history. So I think there'll definitely be elements that stay around. And I think there are some really good things. I was actually talking to my partner today about it. There's some things where I'm like, I'm totally happy for people to, if you're sick or whatever, not go to work or wear a mask, or those sort of things that are very prevalent in like Japanese culture and stuff like that, where there's a bit more respect for not passing on viruses and colds and things. I think those sorts of things, I hope they stay. But yeah, Zoom.
Have you found yourself learning any new skills? Because I mean, a lot of people have been doing dance classes and been doing, quizzes and all different types of things, learning instruments, all that. Have you learned anything over lockdown?
In the first phase, I suppose back in March, April, the first lockdown, there was so many. Everyone was like, "Yeah, I'm going to learn guitar. I'm going to learn anything." There was so many, bake more bread. I definitely did both those things. I'm still making the bread. That's become a nice weekly tradition. And the other thing I was doing actually is an online course in sustainable building design. I think coronavirus definitely made me realize how easy it is for an entire industry to be damaged. Particularly the arts industry. It's sort of fickle at the best of times. So I just thought, why not learn something that will be useful on the side if I ever need it. Hopefully I don't need it, but it's also a useful thing to learn. And I'm learning a lot about sustainability and the environment as well. And I think those are important things to know about, useful skills. So yeah, I've ticked all those boxes: bread, instrument, online course.
I mean, you are quite lucky being obviously on Neighbours, which is one of those, like we say, so you've been able to get back to work fairly quickly, because there's a lot of actors out there that are still nothing's coming in for them. So to be part of a show like Neighbours, I mean, you've been there for, I believe it's 4 years now. You've been on the show. So I mean, you must be, it must just be amazing to be still working, but also to have such a great job.
Yeah, I love it. The longer I'm there, the more I love it. It's such a tight-knit family. I think it's probably, and I mean, I know it is unlike any other film set in the world. Coronation Street maybe would be close, but I just know Neighbours has its own way of doing things. It has its own sort of, there's not I suppose a disparity or a, I don't know, something, between producers and actors and crew and everyone involved. All parts of the system sort of all are intertwined and are open to experiencing from the other. So I think that's really unique about Neighbours. I really love that. There's sort of there's not a divide. It's really a unified experience. And the longer I'm there, the more I realise that. And I love being there, and I really appreciate the hard work that the entire team put into that show.
I mean, like you say, the cast, for example, I think, you all appear to get on really well. There doesn't seem to be any kind of disagreements or arguments. You are like a family, really, and it shows on screen, I think.
Yeah, we're all you get so close. You work in, 24/7 with someone, and it would make it really hard work if you weren't friends. I mean, it does happen, of course. There's some personalities that just don't get on, but at the moment, it's a really great bunch, really tight bunch. It'll be nice when we actually have the whole cast back in the same part of the building. At the moment, it's sort of split in half. We have a studio cast and then a location cast, so that's a bit weird. But yeah, and it'll be nice to spend time outside of work with them as well once we can.
And I mean, we must say that obviously on screen, yourself and Olivia, who plays Yashvi, you've got such great chemistry. I mean, for you working with her, what is it like? Because obviously initially you guys weren't a couple on the show, and then you were put together, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, there's a bit of an age gap there." But you guys really work, I think.
Oh, I'm glad you think that. Now, I love it. I wasn't sure. To be honest, I was with those fans that thought, I don't know about this at first, because we'd sort of established this thing where it was like she's this young girl and she's got a bit of a crush on Ned, and he's just not interested. But I really like the way that they've developed Yashvi, and sort of she's grown up on the show and she's become this her own woman, more mature and I suppose just more well-rounded. And I think Ned's sort of learning a lot from her, and yeah, I think it's a really nice relationship. So I hope they keep us together. I think the plan is to do that, so, but you never know. But yeah, we get on really well, so it's a nice experience to work with her every day.
And I mean, obviously, Ned was originally with B, obviously played by Bonnie Anderson, who's fantastic. And in a minute, we will talk about the Masked Singer. But I mean, how do you feel that Ned's relationship with B differed to Ned's relationship with Yashvi?
I think B came with a lot of baggage from Finn, and so I think there was a lot of Ned trying to rescue her all the time and trying to make sure nothing ever happened to her, and that became quite controlling. So I actually think, there was definite reasons for them breaking up. There were negative parts of that relationship that weren't good for either of them, which I don't think are as present with Yashvi. Obviously, Ned still tries to run in and save the day. I think he always will. But I think, especially with her becoming a cop, he's sort of taken a step back and allowing her to be her own woman, and they're sort of on a more level playing field, I think, yeah.
And do you think that having a police officer as a girlfriend, do you think Ned will kind of get better, or do you think he'll still find his ways of getting into trouble?
I think trouble is always going to find Ned. And I think that's what makes the character enjoyable to play, to be honest. Although I have been speaking to the writers recently about having some more sort of comic storylines. The Fandangle stuff that was on recently went down really well. It was funny and, pretty weird, but the whole cake situation, those scenes with Therese and Sheila, they were so much fun to film, and I generally I'm not doing that kind of material, but I love doing it. So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of that sort of thing with Ned. That would be nice.
And I mean, another character that I think Ned should have more scenes with, because I've loved seeing Ned with Kyle Canning, seeing yourself and Chris Milligan, because I think you guys, you're a great pairing. You guys, I reckon there could be a lot of comedy in there.
Yeah, so do I. I've yeah, on the money, because I think exactly the same thing, and I love watching our scenes back. I think it's just a nice banter, and it's probably one of the few, I suppose, that sort of few younger male relationships on the show where we could be really good mates. It's getting there, but I have, again, one of those things where I pitched a few ideas to the writers with me and Kyle, and I'm hoping that they end up somewhere in the next couple of months.
Now, we probably can't talk too much about it, but we do know that Scarlet will be coming back. Now, Scarlet caused a lot of issues for Ned first time round. So, I mean, for you to have that character back on the show, I mean, you must be pretty excited to see what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I mean, I love working with Christy. We're friends from a long time ago, so that was one really nice thing, is that, I got to see her during the pandemic, purely because we were working together. But in terms of, for Ned, not so great. It's tricky. I'm trying to remember where you guys are at, because it's out of sync now.
So we haven't actually seen her on screen yet. I mean,
okay.
I've heard how she comes in, but I better not say too much.
Yes.
But yes, it's very interesting how she comes back. Obviously, it's a kind of a slow burner where I think it comes out of nowhere. You don't really expect it.
No, not
But
expecting it at all.
I mean, to work with her again, I imagine was so much fun. But also revisiting that storyline because it did traumatize Ned so much.
Yeah, well, he never really got any closure from it. I think it still sort of was haunting him up until until she comes back, really. So that's what this storyline is about. I think is giving him some closure with her. I mean, it's actually a massive storyline. It's probably the biggest storyline that I've filmed since my entire time on the show. And so much happens. Like, it just escalates so quickly and gets so out of control. But it was great. And I'll be interested to see what the UK viewers think of storyline.
I mean, I would say, from what I've understood, I think Ned seems to get himself into trouble because he doesn't necessarily admit the truth. I think he lies a bit, and it just gets even worse and worse. He should learn from his mistakes, really.
He really should, and I'm hoping that's what happens at the end of this whole Scarlet saga. But I think with Ned, the thing with him is he thinks like, okay, look, I've stuffed up a little bit here, but I'll fix it, and then I'll tell people. And then it won't look so bad. But by the time that he's tried to fix it, it's gotten worse. And he's forced to tell people. And it's just a whole mess. But yes, it's one of those soap things, isn't it? Like, just tell the truth, please. Just tell the truth. Solve so many problems.
And I mean, someone else who does sort of help out Ned a bit is Roxy. And I absolutely love the relationship between Ned and Roxy because obviously, being cousins, they're going to have each other's back. So, I mean, working with Zimmer must be a joy.
Yeah. She's such a good laugh on set. We have so much fun. And I really like the sort of banter that Ned and Roxy have. There's this sort of like, we're cousins and we obviously look after each other and we care about each other, but like also you're just, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Both ways, but she's a great little character and a great actress. So I mean, it's always fun to do stuff with her.
Now, as I was saying earlier, we must talk about The Masked Singer because obviously Neighbours is known for having a few people take part in the show. Obviously, last season in Australia, Rob Mills came second place. This year, we saw Bonnie Anderson win the competition. So for both of them, did you actually have an idea it was them or were you completely surprised?
Look, I know Rob Mills's voice very well, and I know Bonnie's voice very well, and I think just their mannerisms and things. I would have said if it wasn't them, I would never have trusted my own intuition ever again. But it turns out I was correct. It was them. It's just nice to see your friends doing well and doing other stuff and getting so far with the show. They're up against tough competition and they, both Mills coming second and then Bonnie winning the whole thing. It's just it's so great. And it's great publicity for Neighbours as well. So it's a win-win really.
I've interviewed them both in the past. I mean, Rob Mills actually appeared on this show about a month ago, and they both commented on how a talented singer you are. So would we ever see Benn Hall on The Masked Singer, do you think?
Look, anything can happen. Nothing surprises me these days. I don't know whether I'd get as far as those two. They're both very, very talented singers and very kind of them to say that I'm a great singer, but I think I'm more of a dabbler compared to them. But you never know. I have to wait and see if they ask me first.
I mean, the other person I think would be interesting on The Masked Singer would be Alan Fletcher, because obviously a very talented singer, but also very good at comedy.
Yes, I think I would like to see him in the show. I mean, hopefully it returns. Hopefully there's another season. There was a few scary moments in Bonnie's seasons with it being shut down with COVID and stuff like that. So hopefully that hasn't discouraged viewers or anything like that.
Now, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It always is a pleasure to talk to you. But before we go, have you got any messages for anyone who is listening in hospital or anyone who's watching online?
Oh, just stay safe and stay happy, guys, and please keep watching the show. Hopefully, it brings a little bit of joy into your room. at the end of the day, or during the middle of the day in the UK. You guys have it in the middle of the day too. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
1:45 and 5:30 on Channel 5. See, I'm trained well.
Right.
But
Glad
thank
you
you.
know.
Thank you so much, Ben. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, keep safe. And thank you for giving up your time.
No worries at all, Matt. Have the best arvo and evening.